Welcome back to the continuing adventures of the monad. In the last presentation, we outlined what was meant by the divine plan. It turns out to be much more prosaic than one would think. There is no shimmering banner floating amongst the stars that proclaims that these are the wishes of God. There is an overall objective of a continuing evolution of all monads associated with our planet and our solar system. When it comes to our hierarchy, though, they do have a plan, a cunning one, to reappear amongst us. Quite why they have taken leave of their collective senses is not apparently clear, other than they are masochists. Clearly, if they walk amongst us, the whole process of consciousness development will speed up. What we should be aware of is that they do this at great sacrifice to themselves. Our hierarchy dwells in the fifth and sixth kingdoms of nature. The difference in consciousness development between a 45 self and a 47 causal self is as great as the distance between ourselves and a vegetable. When was the last time you had a productive conversation with a cabbage? The hierarchy can just not waltz in, blow a trumpet, and announce their arrival. Apparently, there needs to be meticulous pre-preparation made. There is a considerable amount of force that needs to be generated to make this happen. So great, in fact, that it involves input from our planetary government and other star systems. Lawrence tells us that for the hierarchy to work with humanity, they don't just make one but three sacrifices. The first sacrifice is that they must scale down their thinking to that of an idiot, as far as they are concerned. They have to drop their mental and emotional processes to a level of illusions and fiction to stand a chance of being understood by us. Secondly, they have to abandon all plans for further consciousness development in their own worlds. The third sacrifice is that they have to live in a polluted emotional and mental environment that must be repulsive to them. This they are prepared to do so that we, as a kingdom, can slowly find our way back onto the rails and begin to move forward in a concerted manner. This will not be a permanent arrangement on their part, and our upward march will not be seamless. Remember, those that would not make the cut into the next 10,000 years of evolution have to come back and continue on their journey. Everything goes in cycles. The task ahead is to make the most of the upcoming cycle. 10,000 years may seem a long time, but how many shots do you think you could get to incarnate during that period? We are assuming that we qualify to do so in the first place. Now, for a bit of gossip. We all know Lawrence deplores this sort of behavior, but hey, he is my source of this gossip in the first place. We are told that it is a tradition in the hierarchy that an individual keeps the name that they had when they became a 45 self. So, bad luck if your name at the time was Flash Gordon. Where there are rules, there are always exceptions. In the case of Jeshu, he remains Jeshu, although he became a 45 self in his incarnation as Apollonius of Tyana. Why? Because this monad made a unique contribution to humanity when he was a 46 self, and so this title is kept. Lawrence uses the names 44 self Pythagoras in brackets Kuthumi and 45 self Cleinias in brackets Dual Kul. Who was Pythagoras' star disciple? Once again, these names are used because these are the names that are best known to us. Another real character in the pantheon of the hierarchy is the 45 self Count de Saint-Germain. This individual used to amaze people with his recounting of events from the present rather than the past tense. That is what continuity of consciousness can do for you. Having said that, quite why he was boasting these facts I don't know. I thought it was against the rules. Lawrence tells us that the then 45 self Master M admitted in 1882 that the planetary hierarchy, which in 1775 had been opposed to the idea of publishing esoteric knowledge, was right, and that KH and himself had failed in their experiment. But certainly it was not their fault. Had Pythagoras, KH, been permitted to put forward the Hylozoic mental system as it stands, then the results would have been different. Lawrence claims that all the seekers of the world would have received what they had longed for and needed, a perfect logical working hypothesis. He would say that, as the Hylozoic presentation of the wisdom suits the orientation of a certain kind of mind, rays 1, 4, and 5. He has a point though, and I quote, "We would have been spared all those quasi-occult sects which the philosophically and scientifically educated intelligentsia rightly has refused to accept. Taking into account the way the matter was presented, it was bound to fail. This was not the fault of the 245 selves at the time, however, but of the planetary hierarchy itself, which would not give KH free rein to manage the matter as he wanted. He had studied Western natural science and realized that its way of looking at things must also be made the basis of the presentation of esoterics. Subjectivism of philosophy had proved untenable. It was no mere coincidence that his chief disciple, C.W. Ledbetter, started from the matter aspect and was the most successful of all the esoteric writers, with his classifying presentation of theosophical material. One can only regret that he did not receive the requisite facts for a presentation of the Hylozoic system. After KH had become a 45 self, he was given other tasks, and Ledbetter was too content with himself with what he could ascertain for himself. 45 self DK had his own disciples and emphasized increasingly the consciousness aspect, being the most suitable study for those who pursue the 2 and 6 paths, the paths he pursued himself. However, Western natural research follows the 1, 3, 5, 7 path, and it will need Pythagorean Hylozoics as a basic working hypothesis. 2 senior members of the hierarchy, past and present, Buddha and Christ-Maitreya, both stated that life was power, that everything was power, and this power was at everyone's disposal. This power has the capacity to make everyone happy as long as that power is focused on unity. Without love for all, power acts destructively. Knowledge has no relevance unless it is dedicated to serving others. Teachings of Buddha were very pragmatic. When asked whether one should dare to doubt religious teachings, Buddha answered that if reason was God's greatest gift to humanity, then God could not be angered at a humanity that tried their best to use this reason. According to Buddha, it is wrong to accept anything that conflicts with your own common sense, such as it is. It should be added that Lawrence tells us that the planetary hierarchy prefers atheists and skeptics to blind believers who can accept all manner of absurdities, thereby destroying the principle of reason and the sense of reality. Buddha wanted us to come into the world and solve the problems of our physical lives. This pragmatism did not suit the Brahmin priests, so they chased Buddha's disciples out of the subcontinent. Maitreya's message was one of simple love for one's neighbor, unity by another name. How simple is that, and yet how that was twisted into what became Christian doctrine that leads to the death of 4 million witches and over 50 million other hapless victims. These 2 avatars had the simple message of common sense and love, yet these messages were taken and turned into religions. Whenever that happens, there is only one way things will go: badly. Common sense is required to put facts into their correct context. If you have common sense, esoterics is logical to you. One common feature of both teachers is that they conveyed their message to initiates and the uninitiated alike. It was the latter who took what they heard and made it into doctrine. Those in power have always monopolized knowledge and formulated it to suit their own needs. This holds true for all religions. It is laughable when people write of Buddha's path to enlightenment. He was a 43 self and the head of the planetary hierarchy. He was not a student. He was the principal of the college. We are then told he reached nirvana, all of plane 45, when he was already on plane 43, and his achievement was to attain consciousness on plane 42 and enter the second divine cosmic kingdom. Some esoteric literature states that Buddha and some of his co-equal cohorts reorganized the planetary hierarchy and made some defects in it. Lawrence says this is not the case. When the principal of the college moves on, there is always going to be reorganization of the staff. On that note, let's leave it there for the time being and resume with a look at the most important officer in the hierarchy as far as we are concerned, the secretary of the hierarchy, 45 Self Master DK himself. Thank you.